The executive producer, Michelle Sugihara. Michelle, thank you so much for being here. And the star of the film, Jeena Yee. Jeena, thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. Folks, please, I'm gonna ask a few questions, but then we'll open it to you two to be a part of this conversation and to ask questions, comment, react. We love your input. Liz, this film has been really everywhere, and it's an Academy qualifier, and has really impacted so many audiences. Let's start from the beginning. And can you tell me, where did this come from? How did you decide to make this film?
The way I make work is very personal and pulled from my real life and my, personal fears and anxiety about my family and the people I love. I grew up in a suburb of Chicago. My parents have 4 biological kids, and they adopted 7 kids. 6 of them are Korean, and several of them have different disabilities. And Anna's the youngest of all of us. And so I grew up in the middle as a middle child, and I think sometimes I say I was the youngest of the oldest and the oldest of the youngest, and I think I automatically sort of was immediately drawn to Anna because of the age I was when she came into the family, and I feel like there were points where I mothered her, and as an adult, I studied modern dance and then did experimental theater, but I started thinking about my life and my responsibilities, and so I sort of stopped doing art for a while, and I realized that the stories that I wanted to tell were just a lot more steeped in real life, there was a point where I was trying to help my family. Anna was calling me, or my parents were calling me because Anna was having a lot of emotional problems. She was getting very angry and frustrated, and the only way they could soothe her was to call me, and I would try to, rationalize with her. And I was in the middle of New York trying to be an artist, and this was in the middle of my life, and I have another sister who has mental health struggles, and she had gone off the grid, and I was looking for her to try to help her get benefits. And I just thought about what is my life, and what is my own independence and my career and my wants and needs, and then what is my responsibility to my family, and how can I help them? And so this was a way that I just merged the two together. So that was a big run-on sentence for you.
But all makes sense. Michelle, how did you connect to this, and what made you want to be a part of this project?
Well, I run a nonprofit organization based in Los Angeles. It's called CAPE, the Coalition of Asian Pacifics in Entertainment. We were founded over 30 years ago to uplift and support Asian Pacific Islanders, both behind and in front of the camera. And last year, Julia Escow and Janet Yang Productions came to us and they said, we've got an idea for a program to support Asian Pacific Islander women and non-binary filmmakers. And so the thought was that for all intents and purposes, Hollywood is still largely a club and still largely a boys' club. And so we said, how do we help level that playing field? And then also we took it a step further and said, a lot of times you'll hear about these wonderful filmmakers after they win some big film festival. And then we said, well, what if you don't even have that money to make the film? So how can we take it back even further? And so the inaugural year, we awarded 4 grantees, $15,000 each. Liz was one of the 4. And here we are today.
Amazing, and that is so crucial, I think, for the industry, and to have these images up on the screen and in the mainstream. So thank you so much for that. Jeena, where did this start for you? More importantly, tell us a little bit about how you approached your character and your work with Liz. Of course, you were actually playing with Liz's actual sister. So in some ways, you may or may not have been playing Liz's role. We don't have to actually pinpoint that. But tell us a little bit about how you approached this role.
Well, smartly, Liz had set up some Zoom meetings prior to us shooting down in Florida, where Anna and I just got to know each other. And we read the script together, sort of, but really it was just getting to know each other, talking to each other about our likes, our dislikes, and just getting to know you in general. And the way that I approached this was, I talked with Liz and I understood the story that she wanted to tell, and she also let me know that this set is very different from other sets. And so the way that I approach this is, and I think Liz told me this too, she said, don't be afraid to be mean. But it was such a great note for me as an actor, because I think sometimes, when you, like, it's easy to sort of, I think an easier route would have been to try to I think the more honest you can be, the better the story gets told. With specificity, you create universality. And so I think that was such a great thing to keep in mind, because sometimes my tendency was that I wanted to be really nice and I wanted Anna to love me and like me, but then I was realizing, no, the story that we're telling, we have a long relationship. We have, there is something because at their core they're siblings, they're sisters. And sisters fight. Sisters aren't very nice to each other sometimes. We aren't always on our best behavior around our family. If anything, we might be on our worst behavior around our family. So that's sort of the way. And just, quite frankly, it was kind of one of the easiest jobs, because Anna, as an actor, forces every other actor in the room to be as present as possible. And that's what we are always trying to strive for, is to be present and honest and truthful. And Anna demands that of anybody that's in the room with her. So it's, yeah.
Can I just say, I saw a tape of a monologue of Jeena's like 3 years before, and I just couldn't stop thinking about her. It was just like this beautiful monologue that just felt so honest and so real, and she was always in my mind. And so for this, I didn't actually go through a casting process. I just sort of knew that I wanted to work with her. And I had actually also met her because I had worked in wardrobe in theaters, and she was in a cast, and I was like, just saw her behind the scenes, and I was like, she's just like a good human being. She's smart, she's kind, and I just want to be around her and make something with her. And so I just trusted her and knew I wanted her. And I also, wanted someone who had a theater background, who was going to come there, know the lines, be able to do repetitions, and have some kind of flexibility and play to it. And so Jeena's done like a lot of film and theater, but she was like a second director on so many levels. There was so much to learn on the set, but we did each little tiny scene in a way that was like a structured improv, and she sort of like looped the scene, and Anna has very little short-term memory, so she couldn't memorize the lines. So I would yell out the line to Anna. She would repeat it. It wouldn't sound very good. And then they would just keep doing it on a loop. And then I'd slowly pull away, and Anna would just be immersed in the scene, and she would sort of figure out what to say. And I think Jeena helped us hit these emotional beats, and she played off of Anna's timing and gave Anna space to figure it out. And that was what was so amazing. So I give her so much credit for that part of it, for helping lead it.
Thanks, Liz.
And casting authentically was also was I don't know if that was the easier thing to do, or definitely probably the harder thing to do. And bringing in actually a disabled person in that role, I think, was the right way to do it, and made it in some ways much more relatable, and not the Hollywood way of sometimes doing things, where it becomes a little too artificial. Was Anna involved in the writing process and actually the creation of the characters?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like sometimes I just write my diary and, like edit it together in a way that's interesting. So like a lot of the pieces of the scene and the dialogue are from conversations that I've had with Anna, like directly pulled from them. Like when she says, "How long will we be sisters for?" That's like something she said to me, and still like moves me and feels very emotional. But So I wrote it in her voice, in the way that she speaks and her patterns, because I knew that was the only way she could do it and sound real and draw the audience in. And I also wanted the audience to have to sit with her and figure out what she was saying in however she speaks, which is also why I left it open for her to say it in a way that felt natural. And then I cast her because, one, she's the only person I could see playing it, and two, because I think the story's told in her body, and like the way that she holds herself, the way she reacts to a space, the history behind her eyes. And so, in a way it was easiest, but also I wanted to take that huge challenge to figure out how we were gonna make a film with her having very little short-term memory, and I knew it would pay off in the end.
Yeah, and kudos to Liz for being even open to even thinking about how she was going to do it. The way the challenge works is all we get is a script. And so Liz was selected based on the script. And so we had preliminary conversations about casting and locations. And I remember the first time she said, I think I'm going to cast my actual sister. And that was really amazing.
And Michelle, seeing that final presentation here on the screen and knowing the goals of your organization, where did it pay off for you? What's that moment where you're like, oh, this film is achieving, this is why we support these films?
I mean, we got multiple cuts along the way before we saw the final. And so even from that very first cut, we saw her vision, the beauty of it, the nuance of it. And it's funny that you talk about being mean, because that was one of our notes. We're like, wow, the sister's so mean. But then I think the more we watched it, the more we understood where Liz was coming from.
And on that mean note, too, I feel like we get that note from people, and that was really actually important for me to preserve. And originally, I think my real note to Jeena was much like quicker and lamer, which was basically my sister, who's co-guardian to Anna, was on set, and she was, now she's an associate producer, but she was there to take care of Anna and make sure that everything was good, and she was, mentally just like taken care of. But my sister is like a high school principal, and she has like a lot of energy, and we're opposites. And I felt like Jeena was channeling Molly, and I was like, less Molly, more me.
Yeah, that people was like, oh, more you today? Okay.
But also I felt like that tension and that, like Jeena was talking about, that's how siblings really are. To me, it's like that's how I respect Anna as a dimensional human, is that we're not precious with her and careful with her, that we can also be sick of her and exhausted, and we treat her like, that's real family to me, so.
In relation to that, Jeena, you mentioned that the set was different than, and we're hearing a lot of these differences there. But and by the way, that scene, the scene of when you're throwing things out, and that intensity that grows, is really one of my favorite scenes, and I think it actually plays out very nicely. What scenes were the most challenging for you, and how did this? I know you've been on some Netflix films and some really mainstream stuff. How did this also play for you differently on set?
It was different in the sense I actually felt this set was the most inviting, in that it was very different in that, we had sometimes 20-minute long takes, and there was never really an action or a cut, but it was wonderful because it was clear, everyone on this set had a clear objective, and we all knew the story that we wanted to tell, everyone, and also we knew, who number one was, and who, and we knew why. Like, when you know the why and you know what you're doing, it makes everything just fall into place, and it's easy, and it makes you actually question maybe the traditional ways that we do things, which can sometimes be unforgiving and a little severe, and because it's about deadlines and money and things like that. But I think for this set in particular, I think the most challenging scene was probably the scene when I'm on the phone and there's the medication and trying to, because when it's going on for 15, 20 minutes, I kind of ran out of like things to improvise. So then I started going into a loop too. But when you bring up the scene with the moving of the boxes, that was probably my favorite scene to do, because we were out there, we were doing it over and over again. But what was the best part was that when we would cut, Anna and I would check in with each other, and and she'd always come up. She goes, that wasn't real. I wasn't really mad at you. I was like, I wasn't mad at you either. Thank you. But that's something that, like, that's on other sets too. And theater too, like, after something's over and if it was intense, you check in with each other. You look each other in the eye and you're like, hey, we're good? Good. We're safe, we're good. And so it was so beautiful. And it just was such an example for me that, like, there isn't just one way to do something. There's many ways to do something. And entering a space with, like, generosity and patience it's priceless, I think. Yeah.
On that note, really quick, I just want to say that, like, yeah, we would do like 20-minute takes, and we were rethinking how we were working the set. But it's important for me to add that, like, it doesn't cost more money. It just costs a different way of thinking and structuring the time.
I love sets that work outside the box, because you definitely don't have to be inside the box. That never works. I want to jump into another topic here, which is sibling care for a sibling with a disability, and telling the story in such a true way. And I know this is a topic that parents of children with disabilities are always thinking about, and this is something that comes up a lot. And organizations try to, in our structures here in America, where we've moved away from the institutional structure, and children with disabilities stay with their families. The siblings play a major role in this. And what can we learn from this film that you would like an audience to know? Sorry to put you on the spot with that one.
Yikes. I guess the biggest thing to me is that I wanted to leave it open-ended, because I don't think that there's a solution right now in America. I think that a lot of siblings siblings with disabilities live with their family, and that's great, and we should be there and do that for them, but also there should be other options. And in this, Anna has this little thing she says at the end where she's like, I'm going to get my own home. And I thought that was really important, because Anna has wants and needs too, and she wants her own life and her own independence in her own space. And so we shouldn't just assume that it's the family's responsibility. Like, I wanted to leave it open so that hopefully people care and love Anna, and they want to make action and learn about what is available and how we can change that and build.
I'm going to ask one more question, then we'll take questions, comments, and reactions from the audience. This film is getting, if you're following the press, Hollywood Reporter has written about it, and many, many more, some real Oscar buzz. And I want to know what's next. What comes next for this film? What comes next for all of your projects, whatever you're working on?
So I guess I'll say that we're in campaigning for an Oscar, and the voting happens December 14th. So if you guys want to share and post it around, that's a big deal. We're up against some films that have huge backing and a lot of money, and it's about visibility and getting to the voters. And so that's what we're doing right now. And we'll see how long that goes for. And then we're also creating a feature out of this. That dives actually deeper into the world of Anna living with her parents and her mother aging into physical disability and her father on the edge of dementia, and how they live together in this home of disability. And it's sort of a house of cards, and they're trying to hold on to their own independence, and still sort of giving Anna the agency that she is actually the most helpful and knowledgeable person in the home. So yeah, that's the feature version that we'll see what happens next.
I just want to underscore what Liz was saying about the importance of visibility. So in this stage now of the Oscar campaign, it really is about the buzz, and there's so many other contenders, and so it's really who's going to rise to the top. And clearly you all just saw what a beautiful film this is, and so any amplification you can give of the project to all your friends, and it's really word of mouth, and so really appreciate you all being here today.
We'd love to take your questions, comments. We'll pass around a microphone.
Hi, that was beautiful. Could you talk about the scene with the microwave and the Campbell's can?
Yeah. Do you have a specific question about that, or I can just general? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wanted in that scene Anna to be strong and independent, but also clear that she can't live on her own. And so that was the important part of the narrative part of that. But in the scene, it was interesting because we put a little piece of tin foil in there and made a real spark. And so Anna had a real reaction off of it, and she backed up and she's like, "Oh, what is that?" And I said, "Go back and turn it off." And she was like, "Oh, no." She's like, "You can do it. Can you help me?" And I was like, "No, you can do it. Figure it out." And some people on the set were like, "Ugh." But it's like, I know my sister. I know what she's capable of. I know that people finish her sentences for her. I know that people like help her move faster and do things for her all the time. And I know that she can do it, you know? And so just giving her that extra second to build up that courage and figure it out was huge. And I think that happened in the entire set and the entire process of it. By the end of it, you know, because she was engaged and challenged and the center of everything, she was just so much more alert and just so much more fulfilled as a human. So.
Microphones are making a run up there.
I think it was a really beautiful, sensitive film. I thank you very much for making it. I was curious, how did you present this to Anna from the beginning when you decided to make a film? What did you tell her, and how much of it did she understand?
I think for me, a big part of the film is that Anna is not going to articulate the way that we want her to show agency. And, you know, she loves movies. She loves her sister. She loves to play. I think the one thing I had to balance is that I knew she would do anything I wanted because we're buddies, you know, like we love each other. So yeah, I mean, I told her she was going to be in a film. She said, "Yeah, that's cool." We explained what the days would be like, but like, how do you understand that until you're in it? You know? And so like, that's why my sister was there to make sure that she was okay. We weren't pushing her too hard, that she rested, that she, you know, got the food that she wanted and needed. Yeah, it was actually great. She got whatever she wanted. Yeah, and so it's. I think the whole thing is hard to comprehend. I can't comprehend like this year and the visibility that it's had and the success that it's had. But we did do Florida Film Festival where she finally got to attend with my parents, and I turned around and I filmed her the whole time watching herself on screen, and she was just like eating popcorn, loving it. And then her friend at the end from Special Olympics was sitting next to her, and it was like the end in silence, and he goes, "You did it, Anna!" And I was like, "You sure did, Anna." And like, she loved it, you know? Like,
I see another hand up there.
Beautiful film, like everyone else said. I had a question. One of the things that stood out to me was, so I'm adopted, and I think part of the story, whether it's kind of left unsaid what the family dynamic is, like if the children are adopted, I feel like I resonated with seeing that on film, where I think a lot of times with children of adoptees, you have to explain kind of, you know, what your family dynamic is. And I thought it was really refreshing that that could go unsaid. Was that a conscious decision that you had where you weren't gonna have any lines in there about like, you know, the throwaway line from, you know, the aide saying, "Oh, what's this family dynamic?"
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that was very important to me because I just wanted them to be a family. Like, they have family problems, end story, you know? And in this moment of like major transition, there's so much bigger things to their identity and their problems and their world than this adoptee history. And that definitely exists, for me as an adoptee. But I didn't want to center it on that. And I would also just give a ton of credit to Michelle and the team and the EPs behind me to not ask me to explain that, because that's where the problems come in, is you want to green light it and then somebody wants the explanation and they think nobody will follow the film unless you tell them. And on that note too, it's like I didn't want to just explain Anna's disability, because I think that's also something where we just decide we know who she is because of that. I wanted us to lean in and just figure out how she thinks, because laying on some terminology doesn't tell me who she is. So.
Hi. Thank you very, very much. I am the parent of a disabled, a boy with autism who's nonverbal. And as we navigate this world, we also have two daughters who are his siblings, and it's a lot of worry on their shoulders when they're growing up. What is my role in this? What happens when you go? And I missed your showing at HRC's event. I think you did a great job. It's a big worry for parents. What happens to us, and what we're leaving. Some people see it as a burden that they're leaving to their siblings. And other people, like myself, I see my children, his sisters, as this is their responsibility, but it's not their responsibility, excuse me. He will always be their brother, but he will have a life of his own also. I just want them to include him. And, that's what our family dynamic is, that they would always include him. I'd love to promote this film. I'm part of Manhattan's DD Council. And if JCC tells us how to promote this for you, you're not giving us a lot of time. December 14th is pretty close. Especially for someone who's not really good with technology. But we will, get it out there, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just want to say, I feel like you're doing all the right things, and it's just about having the conversation, and every relationship and every person is different. But if we don't talk about it, if parents are afraid of it, then it's so much worse for the sibling to be a part of it in whatever way they can. So.
And this film is really a conversation starter, I think, and a good way to bring it up in some ways, and you rarely get to see that. Does the film have a website that people can reference?
It does. It was over there. It's takemehomefilm.com, and the Instagram is take me home film, but with a bunch of underscores in between it.
We got a question.
Hi, my name is Won Hee, and then I'm a baby filmmaker too. But I do have a theater background too. But could you explain how different, very first time you imagine it, visualizing it, and then later on, the post production, and when you got the final cuts, how different was it? Because for me, I made my first short film, and then it's right now we are in the post production right now. But then when I got the rough cut, and I'm like, this is not what I want. I'm struggling right now. How do I visualizing that I very first time I was thought about it, and it was so different. And I think you had a very beautiful shots. And how was the process about that? Could you tell me about a little bit of it?
I think people say all the time, they're like, oh, when you get the first cut, you're gonna hate it and you're gonna be so sad. And I'm like, yeah, no, but I really hate it. So remembering it's normal, but it's hard. But for this film, I sort of had to give it all up, throw everything up in the air and just be trust. Even when we were shooting it, I was like, we get what we get, and if it's good, then we're just going to figure out the edit around it. And so basically what we did is we just took whatever we loved, which I feel like people say that too, but this was very much like, Anna's good in this, or, you know, this scene works or it doesn't, and like cut it all out and then see what we have there. And then we just had to piece it together. So there's like 3 sort of major mini scenes that were taken out completely, and then we had to refine the form. And I think it's stronger for that. Like, definitely when I think about what it could have been, even though I was like, oh yeah, this is it. It's so much better for that. And I think what was interesting too is because we were missing these big beats. We were like, we just have to emotionally connect it. And if I trust that people are just gonna like be engaged with Anna and her point of view, then it's gonna work, and it doesn't actually matter where it goes, But
And that's really brave.
you mean stupid or brave?
No. To know, I mean, to trust yourself as an artist and to trust the audiences too. And I think it does pay off. We're going to take one last question down here.
I really wanted to applaud every cut. It was so judicious and so well thought out. That emotional missing part, I think the edits really, for me, you are telling the story, and it's so provocative and it's so powerful for such a short film. And I was really glad to hear you're going to extend it to a full feature. I mean, there's so much to mine here, and I'm just like so excited to see more. And I'll definitely be promoting it as much as my little platform can.
Thank you.
Speaking of using outside the box methods, can you just also share a little bit about the music in the film, which is also outside the box?
Yeah. I feel like every single point of this was led by Anna, and how to give her room to be fully expressed in her point of view. And so a big part of there was like a big learning in the music, which was, I was working with these composers, and they're amazing, and they made the end track, and that end song is based around Anna and my mother humming an off-tune song. And then I gave them this mess of recording of them humming, and I said, build the song around it. Like, just figure it out. Like, whatever you hear in there, make a song out of it. And so they added like these bits of nostalgia, like a rocking chair and bits in it. And then we were building the body of the piece, and something didn't work. They just kept making really great music. And I was like, I don't know what's wrong with this. And I felt like I realized this idea of like maybe ableism in music, that it was just so highly produced and so like just so many like layers. And I was like, this is not how Anna thinks. And so what I did was I had a friend, the gaffer of the film. I had him pick up a guitar he hadn't played in I don't know how long. He's not very good. And and I gave him some music, and I said, figure this out, play the music and record you learning it. And then I took all those pieces and I cut it up and put it in the film. And to me, it's like we hear him or the music learning and processing information. It's arrhythmic. It's like the off-key notes are preserved in there. And to me, that's how her mind works. And it just draws the audience closer into her, whereas the other music sort of pulled us away from her and like made us objectify her. And so, yeah, it was an experiment, but it just felt right.
It's beautiful. I want to thank the 3 of you for being here. Thank you so much for this beautiful film. Folks, please tell your friends, let people know about this film, and we wish it the best of luck in its journey. Thank you so much.